just to let you know, we are recording. So yeah, please do take note of that. We have a really good show today. Actually, we've got Delissa Needham from Delissa Associates. I will obviously introduce Delissa in a moment. Now, it's really good actually. What we're looking at is just really how to capture and engage your audience, within your website. I'll talk, Delissa obviously will go through it a little bit more with you, but we really want this to be engaging. So please keep your cameras on if you can, because, if you have any questions, if you can use the chat function, and then I will direct the question to Delissa so it works just a little bit smoother for us all. So I'll hand over now to Delissa. Delissa is very, sorry, I've lost my words. very good at what she does. Yeah, they've gone. When they go, you can't get them back. But actually, yeah, I'll hand over to you now. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm sure everyone else will be.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly, and thank you everybody for joining me. When you have a website, you need to have a video on it. And when you have a video on it, you need to engage people to watch it. And when you engage people to watch it, you're asking for their attention. We're in a world now where you don't read it, you watch it. When you've got people watching, you've got an audience. So when I say audience, I mean your clients. So occasionally when I'm talking about television, I'll talk about audience, but what I actually mean is your clients. But audience for you is very important because they will market for you. And what your main purpose of having that audience is to make them keep watching you all the way through the video, engaging with you, and then taking up your call to action, whatever that may be, whether it may be signing up to a newsletter or buying your product. That's the objective of your video. But I see so many companies failing to do that in the right way, and wasting great opportunities. And I particularly started doing this masterclass myself because I was looking at something in a national newspaper and I thought, oh wow, that's fantastic, I really want that. So I went onto the company website and I was watching it. I probably gave it a few seconds and I thought, oh, I'm not really interested in this anymore. I thought, I kind of parked it and thought maybe I'll come back to it, and I never did go back to it. And I think it's probably, that happens, I see that happening many, many times. And I've been working in the business of keeping audiences for most of my working life in television. We know how to engage an audience, we know how to keep an audience. So what I'm going to do is teach you some of those tricks so that when people land on your website, they engage with you and your business, and hopefully they buy from you. So Paul, can we have the first slide, please? Here is how not to do it. Okay, I mean, I don't know how many seconds we got with that. Can you see, Paul? Does that tell you how many seconds we got with it? No. Okay, well, I think you probably might have had 25, 30 seconds. I don't know about you, but the music drives you mad to begin with because it's just horrible. There is zero information. If any of you can tell me what they're selling, you get 10 marks. I think that they're probably trying to get you to tell yourself a story, in other words. But the reason, there's zero information in that, absolutely zero entertainment. In terms of your attention, it doesn't keep it, because as we all know, we're all looking at other things all the time. We're in the attention economy. There are so many things taking our attention all the time. If you had landed on that website, you would not have stuck with that long enough to buy anything. My golden rule is, if you wouldn't watch it on television, why would you watch it now? Audiences are the same wherever you have that audience. We are all the same. We all act and behave the same way. Deep down in your subconscious, there are various things going on that that interrupt your attention, and I'm going to show you some of those subconscious things that are happening. So we're an audience, as I say, with the same habits. People who arrive at your website want to know something, they're looking for information. Deep down in their subconscious, they are also wanting to be entertained. You will not keep them unless you entertain them. Now let's have a look at the complete opposite end of the scale, right the other end of a company that's got it absolutely right. This is a little bit on the risky side for 10:30 in the morning, but this is a film of super quality, so I wanted you to see it. There are 20 elements that I will address later on that need to be at play and that are at play in this particular thing we're about to see. I'm going to take you through 3 of those things today. I can't do all 20. I keep the 20 for those other 17 things are in my masterclass. But today we're going to drill down and examine 3 things that really are important in order to keep your person's attention. And remember, attention equals a client equals business. So can we see that one now, Paul?
Che cosa guardi, eh? Che cosa guardi? Mi stai spogliando con gli occhi? Poverino, non puoi farne a meno. Ti batte il cuore, ti gira la testa. Sei persa pensando che sarà tua per sempre. The Fiat 500 Abarth. You'll never forget the first time you see one.
It's 10 years old, that ad. I suppose because it's kind of using sex a bit, that, you know, we kind of probably wouldn't use that sort of thing now, because I don't know, the audience would probably be a bit less PC about it, but it's been shared, and people are still sharing it now. I share it now, my friends share it now. All the elements, as I said, are at play with that. The grade on that is fantastic. The music, the way it's shot, the sequencing, the storytelling, the idea, the lighting, the cinematography, everything. That film, and just one question, if you can all think about this, who's taking their audience for granted? The first film I showed you or the second film? The answer is the first film. So the first film is producing a piece of crap and thinking that you'll watch it. These guys on this film have worked really hard to make sure you watch it. Now, the first film probably cost less than £1,000, I would think. Second film, that probably cost 200 to 250,000. The grade alone would have cost 20 to 30,000. Now, the good news for you, it's really extraordinary, really, because you can achieve the same level of entertainment, you can achieve the same level of sharing, you could achieve the same quality of film for a lot less. You would not be able to afford the grade, not a grade of that quality. You don't necessarily need a grade nowadays, because your editor can do a really good grade anyway, but you're watching it on a mobile phone and you're watching it on a laptop. If you're watching, that was probably made to be watched on television, where a grade would really matter. You're on a really fantastic screen of great quality. By the grade, I mean the fact the color is just wonderful on it. And what we're going to come back to in a minute is you'll see a really bad grade. Actually, you're going to see a really bad grade. So can we just have the next slide, Paul? Oh, what I meant to say, by the way, about that, you know, the finishing sentence for that is that it doesn't cost money to grow an audience. All it takes is know-how, and being able to tell your production team, or if you're doing it, or somebody in the office is doing it for you, tell them what you know. And 2 of these, as I say, a few of these things are going to be learned today. So who's your inner goldfish? Your inner goldfish, the goldfish has a 9-second attention span. You have got 4 seconds. Audiences have, on average, a 4-second attention span. If you ask yourself, you know, how you operate yourself, you know, when you're looking at mobile phone or something like that, something invariably comes in, whoops, they take your attention. That's what you're up against. And that's what you've really got to work hard to get over. So when anybody lands on your website, 4 seconds, you've got to get them hooked within 4 seconds. Don't muck about with it. So let's just remind ourselves how television deals with those few seconds. Tease, tease, tease. Watch this.
In 1982, over 10,000 Argentine troops seized control of the Falkland Islands and declared this British colony was now Argentine.
They were quite forceful and it was scary. They had what I would have called a Nazi-orientated discipline about them.
Each time we were taken out, they pointed the guns at the children, and you knew that the guns were loaded.
He said the best solution would be to kill all the Falkland Islanders, and then there wouldn't be a population to worry about.
I wasn't afraid to die. I just felt sort of quite numb at that stage.
I remember trying to sleep, and every time a bomb went off, actually physically lifting off the floor.
Just trying to get someone out of the back of a BV that's had their leg blown off. You know, the screams, it's just, it was a nightmare.
Not a second wasted, not a shot wasted, not a word wasted. Every second counts, literally. That whole thing focused on making sure that it keeps your attention and keeps you watching. Every second counts. You've got to remember that. Vitally important. Sorry, can you, the streamers have arrived at my house. Hold on, everybody. Sorry about that. I have a problem with it. Somebody's always mowing the lawn here or strimming. Can we have the next slide? So, I mean, this is a very familiar scene and it's become so much more familiar, obviously, recently. But I want you to look at this, just absorb it for a few seconds. And I want you to ask yourself how it makes you feel. Just ask yourself that for the moment. How does it make you feel? Think about it, because we're going to come back to it, okay? We have the next scene, next video. So, what do you want? What do you want for your website? You want a video that works because it gets watched. That means it gets hits. People act on it. That means people share it. People take action on it. People become your marketers. People talk about it. You want them to watch that video long enough to absorb your company message, whether it's trust in our CEO, this is what we manufacture, our product is the best, whatever it is, you've got to get them watching your video long enough to be absorbed into your company, to buy into it and to take action, either to sign up for a newsletter or buy your product. We have the next slide, please. So now this is the squad of 20 items that I was talking to you about that I teach in my masterclass. If all of these things are not here, then you will lose or fail on one particular point. So you will lose attention. Sorry, some people will go if all of these things aren't there and all working. Let me just look at a couple of them. So storytelling, for instance. Now television now uses appointment to view. There's so much going on to get your attention that what television does is it makes appointments to view. And by that, I mean drama where you want to know what happens next, Strictly Come Dancing, who's going to win, Bake Off, who's going to win. That's appointment to view. Now, business, the reason why story is important to business is because, as Steve Jobs says, once you tell your story, people walk your way. Literally, your client becomes engaged in you because they know your story, also because you give them repeatable facts, which they repeat to each other in the pub, or that kind of thing. you might say, you know, in a video, our greatest achievement is that we built this building. Well, people are going to repeat that, especially if you tell them that that building took 6 months to build and it took this many bags of concrete or whatever, all repeatable facts. Audience first, absolutely crucial. Put your audience before anything else. If you haven't got the audience, don't take them for granted. What else can we just have a quick talk about? Oh, well, you just heard music. Oh. If you don't get the music right, you can lose people. And we're also going to have a quick look at how important music is and how you use it. Today, can I have the next slide? Just for now, we're going to look at 3 key things, which is understanding your audience, interview techniques, which are crucially important, that I'm going to show you how using the right interview can engage your audience or lose your audience. The first thing we're going to look at, though, is punching through. So how do you punch through in what effectively is a crowded landscape of millions and millions of videos? It's something like, I think it's 360 hours worth of footage is uploaded every second on YouTube. It's absolutely phenomenal. So you have got to punch through all of that. So I'm going to shout through the window in a minute. Shut up. Can you all hear it, or is it just me? Yeah, you can hear it.
Delissa, it's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, fantastic. Anyway, right, can we have the next slide, please? This lady, irritating lady here, is going like this and this and this. That's just to remind you that whole goldfish thing. But anyway, so we're just now going to look at some examples of how not to keep attention in a crowded landscape. And when I say crowded landscape, I mean, if you are, for instance, in a school and you make a video that's the same as everybody else, how are you going to stand out from everybody else? You've got to take what's your company USP and get that on camera. And you've got to put it on the camera in a way that is actually entertaining. So let's have a look at the first slide, the first film then. Here we go. Question to ask yourself is what you learned from that, from watching it in terms as a client, potential client, in terms of information. What will you have learned from that? Well, you will have learned that you can have a glass of champagne on the deck of a yacht, you can jump off a boat, it's got sails, and it's got a crew, and you can go for a swim around it. Then that's about it. Well, that's the same for every yacht. So it's not giving you any kind of USP. It's not informative, it's not individual, it doesn't stand out in the marketplace. There's also no takeaway. So there's nothing you can repeat to anybody. You can't say to somebody, oh, I might be
hiring a boat, and it's 60 meters long, and it's got this many cabins, and oh, the captain's really great, and the food is all sourced here or there. So it gives you no individual information about that product. It does not inform, and there's no takeaway. It's in a way, it's great because it tells you a story, which is the fantasy that you might put yourself on the deck of that yacht if you could afford to hire it. It's actually not as expensive as you think, but anyway. But if the competition is doing the same as you, how do you stand out? That's why it's so important to point the camera at your company's USP. What is the competition doing? Let's just have a look at what the competition's doing. I think you probably got the idea, which is that basically, you know, you can jump off the deck of that boat, you can have a glass of champagne on it, or you can swim around it. It's exactly the same as the other. They're not selling anything different, so they're not telling you what the USP is. And a crowded landscape, generic films do not tell you what's different. You know, the Taylor film that we saw right at the beginning, wouldn't it have been great if what they'd done was to show the manufacturing process, to take the individual buttons, to measure somebody up, to cut out the you know, the sleeves and the back. You could have shown this, they could have shown this construction very quickly, and at the same time interviewed the CEO. In this case, that's the tailor, interviewed them about why they're passionate about clothes. So you would have become engaged with that product and that business because you'd see them constructing an item of clothing. You would get to know the tailor personally. That kind of thing would engage you. They didn't do that. So what does the audience want to know, basically? What's the information that they're looking for when they land on your website? Deep down in their subconscious, we all are audiences who want to be entertained. But if you're trying to convey trust about your company, point the camera at the CEO. If your product is something that's manufactured, point the camera at the process of the production. If your company is catering, if it's something to do with catering or food, show how it can be used, or show something being put together by a celebrity chef, show the creation, show the source ingredients. If it's interior design, show the before, show the after, point the camera at the USP, give the customer what it is that they want delivered to them. With those yachts, we actually, my company was then hired to go on and make some other films for them. And what we did was we interviewed the captain, we interviewed the owner, we showed the cabins, we demonstrated what it's like to go sailing on there. We joined them for a race. We interviewed the race crew. We followed the cook when she went to buy source ingredients. We saw her putting some together. We really built a picture of that yacht so that because as yacht films, by the way, they end up on brokers' websites in a row like that. So being able to pick the different one and why you should pick that yacht is not being displayed. So as I say, point the camera at what it is, what is your company's CEO and what your company needs to do, whether or not it's trust or whether or not it's manufacturing, whatever it is. Now, I said I would show you a bad grade. You've just seen that film. I was called in to fix both of those films. Those films cost a lot of money. We're talking tens of thousands of pounds. They then had to pay me again. They had to pay me. Sorry, I didn't make those films. They called me in to fix them. So you're going to see now the film that I was called in to fix, and you'll see it's not glaringly obvious, but it's obvious to me, and it was obvious to the owner as well, because again, deep down in your subconscious, you would not be hooked by what you're about to see. I will demonstrate why. And this is a bad grade, so look at the colors. Can we play the film? especially that, you can see with that. So you may not have picked it up, but I can see it, and your subconscious will have picked it up. The color is really far too red and far too blue. You probably felt lost while you were watching that, because the sequence is not in any kind of order. The images are just almost like bunged together willy-nilly. There's no reason for them. And here is a really crucial point that you won't notice. The images were not cut to the beat. So if you cut the images to the beat, you get your attention is constantly returned to the image by the music. That's what's happening, again, as I said, deep down in your subconscious. As I said, both of those films cost tens of thousands, cost even more because I came in to fix them. You don't need to spend that kind of money to make something work, to make something good. You just need to have the knowledge, and you can point at a camera crew and they can do it, or you can do it. But it's about understanding your audience. What does the audience need to know? Inform and entertain. Audience means client. Can we have the next slide, please? So just because you make it doesn't mean people will watch it. So that's the big thing. Everybody thinks that I've made it, everybody's going to watch it, and it's about my company, they're all going to watch it. Well, they don't. It's not to be taken for granted. You don't watch things just because somebody tells you to watch it. You watch it because you're being entertained. Anyway, next slide, please. Okay, well, as you can see, I've been around quite a bit. I've been doing television for many, many years. I've worked with all those people, you know, getting audience attention, getting them to take action, and getting audiences basically to spread the word. Television is audience focused. I have been trained since I first started in television to think of nothing else but the audience. When you come up with an idea, will it appeal to the audience? We know, exactly down to the minutest detail, who you are, what you're thinking, what you're doing. You should know that about your client. By the time they arrive at your website, your film should be focused to who you're expecting to appeal to. Just a quick, there's a reason for this, quick look at a journey through television history. When television first began, if you think about it, there was just the BBC. So, just BBC, they just did what they kind of want. You turn on the television and watch them anyway. They were good at it, but, they've got better, as you probably realised. When you had one channel, that was fine. Then you suddenly got 2, 3, 4 channels. And then suddenly we got 500 channels. And everybody's really, really trying to do their damnedest to make sure that you don't grab the remote control and go somewhere else. And we have now become so honed at that, I think on about 10, 15 years ago, we had a situation when, in America particularly, they would have celebrity guests on, and if people got up to put the kettle on during that celebrity guest's appearance, that celebrity guest was never invited back. So it's got so honed, it's quite incredible. Television is the king at keeping audiences. You have to be as well in order to keep people focused on your business. Can we have the next slide, please? So I'm just going to ask you, what's the last thing that you remember watching? Just tap into your inner audience for a second and just ask yourself, just think about it. How long did you watch for? Is it 5 seconds, 5 minutes? Did you watch for half an hour? Did you watch for an hour? I don't know about you, but one of the last things that I remember actually being, my mind was just hooked into something. I could not leave it. I got on a plane and I was going to Antigua, and I was watching, I decided to watch the pilot of Breaking Bad. Disaster. I should never have watched it. As I got out at the other end, I went to my hotel room and I joined up with Netflix, and I spent the next 24 hours watching Breaking Bad, and I'm in a paradise island, and my friends would be saying, "Are you coming out for dinner tonight?" No, sorry, I've got to watch something. I was literally, because it's got inbuilt hooks and inbuilt teases, inbuilt story and drama, and that everything is geared towards us. That's 24 hours that I won't get back. Isn't that amazing? If you watched for long, it's because you were entertained. If you repeated anything, it's because you were informed. If you shared, it's because you were amused or astounded, like that film we saw for Fiat a minute ago. If you took action, it's because you were inspired. So can we have the next slide, please? So imagine how profitable your business would be if you could have that much power over an audience. So what goes wrong? What goes wrong? What is it that when companies land on your website, what are the common mistakes that people make? Well, as we already know, one of the common mistakes is to think that you can take the audience for granted, to not be aware of those first 4 seconds. One of the things that happens quite a lot, which I really is a real no-no, because it just looks awful. And production companies will do this. They'll say to the CEO, here's a script, learn it. And the CEO then stands in front of the camera and repeats it, parrot fashion, to the camera. It just looks false. It never looks real, no matter how well they do it. Because if you are passionate about your company and your business, you can talk about it anyway. All it takes is the right interview technique, and you will come over as absolutely amazing. And people will trust you and believe in you. It's just about using the right camera technique, the right interview technique. We're going to come to those in a second. So can we have the next slide, please? So we kind of just talked about this. You know, there are amongst all of you, there are no Graham Nortons. I never come across people. Yesterday, I came across somebody who was a natural presenter. It happens once in a blue moon. I was one of the first people to work with Graham Norton, and you knew straight away when you saw him on video that he could hold an audience. You just knew it straight away. 9 times out of 10, people cannot stand in front of a camera and just talk. It's really difficult to do. I get struck by a stiff upper lip when it happens to me. That's why I ended up on the other side of the camera. I went for an audition as a newsreader once. It's the worst audition in history, I think. Anyway, could we, so basically, the reason why I'm saying is there are 2 key things to present yourself as a CEO on camera: the right interview technique and the right camera technique. We're going to look at both of those in a moment. Can we see the next?
Welcome to Queen Anne's. I'm Julia Harrington, headmistress. You'll find lots of information about Queen Anne's on our website, but I'd like to share with you my thoughts on what makes this school such a special place and the right choice for you.
So can you see what I'm talking about? She's learned that, and she's standing in front of camera. That's a school in which you will probably be spending 35 to 50 grand if you send your child there per year. And the CEO is talking to you by reading from a camera, and you're supposed to trust that headmistress. So can we hit play again, please? We carry on. Thank you.
Your daughter. Senior school education has to encompass both qualifications and growing as an individual and learning to be an important part and a significant part of a growing and global community. The world that we're preparing these girls, our students, for is changing all the time. So what we have to do is look at the kind of people that we are preparing these girls to be. And for them, it's about being able to face any challenge that comes along. So academic qualifications are just their current challenge, and their challenges will be different going forward. So we teach them how to approach the challenge, how to look at it.
Cool. Thank you. I don't think we need to go on with that because it's all pretty much all like that. It's visuals with a voiceover. It's not engaging. There is a split second there where they do an interview with the headmistress to the camera. Did we see that? Sorry, we did see that. Yeah. Sorry, I've seen it so many times it's moves over through my brain. But and for the split second that happens, they've actually not got the camera in the right place. So again, it doesn't engage you. But the voiceover under the visuals, it's just not impactful. You and I want to buy in to the CEO of that business, and that business, that CEO is not speaking to you and me. She's not talking to her audience. So it's just a voiceover. There's no reason for the slow motion stuff. You only ever do that when it's to emphasize something. You don't just put it in for the sake of it. It's just distracting. It's stupid. Show, don't tell. Don't ever say to me, this is the right choice for your daughter. Show me why it's the right choice for the daughter. You know, information about Queen Anne's on the website, you put that to the end. Don't spend 4 seconds right at the beginning giving me that. That should go right at the end. So don't waste that engagement time at the beginning, giving me something that could go at the end. I mean, I know that information. Of course, I know that if I want to know any more about Queen Anne's, I can find it on the website. Of course I do. So I've got 3 minutes in which she's selling to me by lecturing at me, which is that whole visual thing like that, when she's reading from a camera and she's actually lecturing at you. It's scripted at the beginning, and the voicing over, not in vision, is just not engaging. Now let's have a look at the other end of a scale in which somebody's doing something generic. You know, I mentioned earlier on, you know, the business of doing generic stuff, not punching through, you know, not standing out in the landscape. Let's just have a look at another school's way of doing things. So, I mean, that just goes on and on like that, actually. I mean, it's just, as I said, it's generic film. It's images with music underneath. That company, I think, made the same film for lots of other schools. It's just not, it's not impactful. It's not, it just doesn't stand out in the crowd, and it's not selling you anything. And it's a really, it's actually quite, it's a cheap way to make a film, but it's also an unskilled way to make a film, but it's not very impactful, really. But you know, those schools, I'm using them as examples because they are nevertheless business models. You know, whether, you know, any of us would or wouldn't send our children there, or could or couldn't afford to, is irrelevant. They are business models. These are businesses where the CEO of that company is somebody you need to trust. You will spend between 35 to 50,000 every 10 years. So you're talking about $500,000 you're going to invest in a particular business with your most precious thing, which is your child. So, and you want that child to be successful at that school. So you are going to spend that sort of money. You want to believe in the CEO. It has got to be trust. And none of those films are conveying that. You can do that with your business, and here's how you do it. Let's have a look.
Girls need to know that the world is absolutely out there for the taking.
Thank you, girls. Please sit down.
They need to be confident enough and bold enough to get out there and grab it with both hands.
The key to success isn't competing against others, but against yourself.
Last year, 100% of girls who went to university gained their first choice. This year at A-level, we were 9th in the Telegraph Small School League table for the first time. One of the things parents love about Heathfield when they call is that I don't have to say, hold on a minute while I go and look for a file. I know who their daughter is.
Yeah, just like really slow.
Sensible classes, that's not sensible.
I hold the school in trust. What is important is the team. And I'm talking about girls, I'm talking about staff, I'm talking about parents. Everybody works together in order to ensure that our girls achieve. The one thing I want every single girl to leave Heathfield with is confidence. Education changes lives, because having a good classroom changes the life chances of the child within it. Every child only gets one chance in life to make it. We as teachers have so much influence. A word from us, a bit of encouragement, and you're remembered for the rest of your life.
Difference. So that, you know, you trust in that woman, and gosh, don't you think that she's going to do the best for your daughter? You know, I mean, the trust there, it's just, and all that is, you know, the good camera work, good interview technique. Can you believe that woman said to me before that interview, I'm quite nervous? Everybody is, you know, but you're just having a conversation with her, but you're doing it in the right way. And that's the actually the crucial thing, is to have that conversation in the right way with the right camera angle. That actually increased their business by 35%. Can you believe that? I mean, that is the difference between those two. 35% difference for them. And it's all down to the camera technique and it's down to the interview. Can we have the next slide, please? Oh, the next slide. Oh, we've had that. Yeah, I've covered that. Next slide, please. So this, you know, you all thought about, I hope you've all thought about this. Let me just clear the screen, clear my screen of my images, because I want to go through this in detail. What this makes you feel is that you're very engaged by it. Have you noticed where you, as the viewer, are actually sitting? You're actually over Bashir's shoulder. And so you're listening in to a conversation. What happens when you listen into a conversation? You listen, don't you? Yeah. There are various other camera angles they could have used. If she had been looking directly at screen like I am now, you as the viewer feel that you're being lectured at. There are other particular camera angles that engage you more emotionally. This is a particularly good one though, because you feel like you're listening in to that conversation, because you're listening over the shoulder. Now notice the way the chair is positioned facing the camera, but the person she has to talk to is over here. What was the most wonderful thing about Diana? Her eyes. Look what her eyes are doing. So her eyes have to flick all the time. Wasn't that amazing? So everything about her, the way the sideways position like that, that's all to do the best for her. Now, look in the background. That background is all slightly out of focus. The reason for that is to keep your eyes on her and on him. I mean, you could say that, you know, she could have given that interview through a letterbox, but actually you would have been distracted. You would have listened to it, walked up. It wouldn't have the same impact or be so memorable. It's very clever how the whole thing is done. The lighting, all of that. I would actually have removed this picture frame that you can see over Bashir's shoulder, but it's out of focus. But I would have got that out of the way because I think it's slightly distracting. But that's just an example of, you know, how interview technique and positioning and camera angle can have an impact on on your audience, who's watching, who's listening. Can we have the next slide, please? In that Diana and Bashir interview, all of the squad, all my squad players are all working expertly. They're all working to their best. We've covered 3 of the things that are going on there, which is the interview technique, being aware of the audience, and well, the interview technique and the camera angle positioning, and also not doing something that is generic, something that actually punches through, which of course they wouldn't want to tell me that anyway, it's not applicable. But anyway, so I've taken you through 3 things. There's actually, as I said, 20 things in my masterclass. Don't script. Let your CEO speak with passion. Be interviewed. So be interviewed in the right way, the camera over the shoulder. Use those first few seconds to hook somebody in. Remember that there's a goldfish. Cut the mind worm. Oh dear, interference from visual obstacles. I was watching something the other day at Westminster and the MP is talking and there's a microphone swinging in front of his face all the time. And you just couldn't concentrate on what he was saying. The right camera angle keeps the audience engaged. That one that we saw with the headmistress where she spoke to, she spoke directly to you and reading from, from a script, and she was doing it into camera, and that was also false. And then they went to an interview with her. The camera was in the wrong place for that interview, for her to be engaged. Don't let them unhook by wasting a single second. Do not waste a single second in anything that you show them. Don't be generic. Don't forget your call to action. Those are my little reminders. And next slide, please. So remember, ask yourself when you're watching something, ask yourself why you're watching it. You just give yourself 4 seconds. That's all you give. Think like the audience. Audiences have attention spans of 4 to 8 seconds. Where's your goldfish? Use those first few seconds to engage the audience. Get the team players working. All those squad players have all got to be in the right place, doing the right thing. Either produce it yourself or oversee that production. But now you've got a little bit of information. You can certainly do better than you might have done not knowing that knowledge. And you keep people like me watching particularly. So next slide, please. Now here's a key point. I've never taken the lens off a camera in my entire life. I've increased audiences by 2,000%. All you need is the know-how. All you need is, you know, the kind of information that I have, because I've been doing this for 30 years. You don't actually need to take, you just need to be able to have the right people and to know to tell them what to do. You've learned about audiences, you've learned about interview technique, and you've learned how to rise above the competition. So now pull up the director's chair and learn about the other team players when I do my masterclass. Anyway, that's it really. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Can we have the next slide, please? And that's it from me. So I hope that was informative for everybody. I feel excited actually.
Delissa, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I'm sure everyone else, you know, feels the same. You obviously have such a wealth of knowledge, and it really, really comes across. And it's so nice, and you're passionate. You know, you're passionate about, you know, what, how to evolve people, which is fantastic and a lovely gift to give to people. So yes, if anyone's here that obviously could make use of a masterclass with Delissa, then please do contact Delissa about that, because I do think it's worth it. And something else I thought as well was, you know, the videos, some of the videos that I was watching, actually I thought they're not too bad, but then when you actually saw the way that you had put the next one next to it, it was like, wow, it actually, look what a difference that made. You know, even though they wasn't too bad, and I guess that's really what's valuable in business, is about us all wanting to raise our profile, you know, and do the best we can, and ultimately, yeah, get sales and do good business. So yeah, thank you. I've got a question actually. So how would you frame environmental sustainability consultancy solutions? So for example, grabbing eco facts to grab attention. So of course, green is a theme at the moment. It's quite big. I mean, what would you suggest would be a good way of doing that?
In what context, Kelly? I mean,
well, let's go over to, I think it was, let me just see who it was. It was Anthony. Anthony, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes. So what would you use to grab people's attention who want to kind of engage in environmental and ecological things? Would you have a series of, you know, facts that they don't know that are, that they would repeat?
Yeah, takeaway facts. Definitely, takeaway facts, things that people will repeat. That's your key thing. What format you put them in, I probably need to know more about what you're trying to achieve, but certainly takeaway facts are very, very powerful. We all do it all the time. You know, when you're watching a documentary, if people will say to you, gosh, did you see that documentary last night? Gosh, they said such and such and such and such, and you repeat them. So yeah, whatever you're talking about, definitely takeaway facts. Does that answer your question? Because I'm not quite sure what your business is or anything, but you know, in terms of environmental and ecological issues, takeaway facts are very important.
Thank you.
Those are the things that will have the greatest impact.
Yeah, brilliant. Like free information. Everyone likes a bit of free knowledge, don't they? A bit of free knowledge.
What your key thing to think about, sorry to interrupt you, Kelly, your key thing to think about is, what's the format that you put those in? Because you can't just spill out facts. You've actually got to put them into a format, whether that's an interview with your CEO, whether that's showing what you're doing on camera, you know, and putting the facts in that way. I don't know enough about what you're doing to talk to you about that.
Brilliant.
Come to the masterclass, you get a free 15 minutes, which will help you with that bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've got one here from Jen. Jen, do you want to unmute yourself and position that to Delissa?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Morning, Delissa. My name's Jen Howell. I just wondered, we keep hearing different things about optimum lengths for promotional and marketing videos. Maybe it depends on the type of business, but is there an optimal length?
Yeah. I don't know if people do it so much now, but they probably have to ask yourself this, because we you know, gauge behavior by what you do yourself. But a lot of people, if they're sent something, will look at the bottom and see how long it is before they hit play. That's one impact. But the other thing is, you don't need more than a minute and a half. Do you know, I mean, you know, adverts, you know, that how long was that Fiat ad? 20 seconds? I didn't feel like 20 seconds, so did it? But the Taylor's ad certainly did. Crikey, I mean, that felt like, you know, that felt like half a bloody lifetime. But the you know, about 1 minute 30 is enough. I think the headmistress video is about 1.5. It's enough. It's amazing, isn't it, really? You know, to be making, you know, I've been making documentaries that are 60 minutes long most of my life, but an advert can get information across in 20 seconds.
Genius.
So,
genius. And they say less before, don't they?
Hope that answers you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. Does anyone else have any questions to propose to Delissa? Paul?
Yeah, just on the point of, I think it was Anthony who was talking about the environmental business and how do we get people's attention, the fun facts point that Delissa confirmed, you know, as a business coach, I guess coming back to the other point that Delissa made, which is the call to action. So the fun facts will get the attention, but then what is it that you want your audience to be doing at that point? Is it to register for further information? Is it to actually have a conversation with somebody, etc.? Everything that we do as businesses, and I'm a business person too, is we want to get an end result or an end outcome. So just that was the thing that sort of sprung to my mind on that particular point. The other thing I noticed was, I think Will mentioned about being able to talk about his business all day long, but put him in front of a camera and he completely freezes. And I understand that too. I just wondered whether or not, Delissa, from your experience of that issue that people face, and certainly I think you mentioned you got to stiff up a lip when you went for that that interview. Any experience that you've got that you could share about how to overcome that camera fright that kind of freezes people?
I've experienced people who literally, yeah, as you say, freeze. You don't put them in that situation. You just don't put people, you know, people like me should not be standing in front of a camera just talking. But you can all sit down and have a conversation. Most of those people out there can sit down and have a conversation with somebody. So that headmistress you saw at Heathfield is sitting opposite me and I'm having a conversation with her. When you do that with people, they soon forget the camera because you're asking them about their business. You're asking them, you know, about something that they're passionate about. And all you're trying to do as the interviewer is find those keys that unlock that passion in that conversation. And that's by asking the right questions. So yes. And the fact that there's a way, I cover this again in the masterclass, there's a way to ask those questions that you get the right answers so that when they end up in the edit suite, you've got what you want. And that's absolutely crucial. But I'm guessing that's never ask somebody to stand in front of a camera and just talk. That's what that dreadful headmistress at Queen Anne's was doing. It's just awful. Yeah. Awful.
So that's the difference between somebody who perhaps is good at taking a video versus somebody that's actually good at getting the best out of the interview.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We've got a question for Dale. Dale, do you want to unmute yourself? I like it when people, you know, speak directly to you because they obviously know what they're talking about.
Yeah, sure. It was just a quick question, really, in that we're all being encouraged to produce these very short, sharp social media videos for TikTok and the like. Would you say that your rules apply equally in that context as well?
To a certain extent, yes. Again, well, yes, in fact, yes, they do, because again, it's an audience. But I do see people trying to do stuff in front of camera for Instagram, etc., pretending to be presenters. Again, they can't do it. There's not, you know, there's very few Trinny Woodalls out there. If anybody's seen the Trinny Woodall stuff that she puts out, it's absolutely fantastic. Some people can just stand in front of a camera. There's another makeup artist I know who doesn't do it so well. It's about being skilled to do it in front of camera. What I would suggest you do with all of those things is that you shoot something in the way that I'm talking about it and make just quick pieces out of that and put it up and upload it. So you're applying the same rules, yes, but you're operating to a much shorter time length. So you still have to appeal to an audience in the same way, but what the format that you put it in is what varies according to where it's going out. So when I say format, I mean, you know, the format is what you're pointing the camera at, how you're telling the story, what means you're using to tell that story. I saw something the other day where somebody was trying to illustrate something to do with, I think it was PowerPoint or something like that. And it starts out with this young guy in front of a camera, standing at the side of him is suddenly by magic appears the guy who knows how to do pronto print. And by magic, he gets into the laptop and he's there in front of him and he shows him how. That's the technique that they used to tell that story. Very clever. So what is the format you're going to do? You're going to use graphics, you're going to use, you're just going to illustrate your manufacturing product. What are you going to do? But if you're doing it for social media, you've got to do it on a very shorter scale. You've got 1 minute 29 on your website. You've got 10, 15 seconds max with Instagram, 5 seconds, depending on what you're doing, 5, 10, 15 seconds. So you've got to put it into something that fits where the outlet is, where the distribution is.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Dale. And Anthony said, how would you showcase a video on your website, or would you just market it? And I think you just probably brushed up with that about timing. Do you want to explain a little bit more, Delissa, about timing and how important that is, you know, throughout the social media channels?
Yeah, sorry, was somebody asking though how you showcase your video? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, how would you showcase a video on your website?
Well, you see, the thing is that, you know, you use social media like a breadcrumb trail effectively. So you're putting into social media little snippets about your business, or if you get a great feature in a newspaper, or you know, traditional marketing or anything like that, that is a breadcrumb trail leading to your website. People may engage with you straight away on social media. They may think, I want to know more. So then when they go to your website, that's when they see your bigger video. What you put out into social media is of a shorter span. So that's they're short teasers, and they must be teasers effectively. They're short teasers to drive people either to engage there and then, or to go to your website and engage. Does that answer your question?
That was from Anthony. Anthony, did that answer that for you?
Yeah. So yeah, but how would you display your video on your top page? So as soon as they log on the landing page, the video's there.
Yes, as soon as they're on the first page of your business, there it should be there. Hit play and start. We've all got click fatigue, so don't let them go too far. Straight on your first page.
Brilliant, thank you.
As soon as they're on your website, it plays.
Delissa, do you think there's a kind of grey area as far as social media goes and looking on a website? Because it's a very different experience, isn't it? Looking on a computer, looking at a video, and then looking at, you know, via your mobile phone screen. Have you ever looked into that?
Oh, well, there is a different experience, because what goes on your website and what goes on your whatever you make has to go into the kind of format so that you can see it straight away on your mobile phone as well. Yeah. So whoever's doing it formats it for both. Your website builder does that. I have that on my website. When you go onto my website, you see a beautiful yacht, and you see that, and you can click through to other things. When you go onto the mobile phone with them, that comes up as well straight away. That's what's got to happen.
Yeah, because sometimes
one thing actually we didn't talk about, that again, that's in my masterclass, which is subtitling. Everything has to be subtitled.
Yes.
We can't be asked to turn the volume up.
And also it can be quite offensive. It can, you know, like sometimes if you're flicking through, you know, a screen and you're just looking at images, and then all of a sudden you get this kind of loud music, it can be actually quite off-putting.
Yeah, that should never happen, actually. As I say, music is there for a purpose. It's there for a reason. It has to be used in the right way. You know, otherwise it can put people off terribly.
Subtitles, though, is a fantastic idea. It eliminates it, doesn't it?
Subtitling is easy. There's a very clever way to do it. It's very important that you do it in the right way, because otherwise it can be intrusive and ineffectual and completely turn people off. So there's a right way to do that as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And has anyone else got any questions? I mean, it's just been absolutely fantastic. Really has. It's been, I think, I mean, I go on many events and many of these, and I really can say it's been really enjoyable listening to you and your expertise and knowledge. It really, really has. So I think for now, Delissa, I'd like to say thank you very much on behalf of the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. As I said, it's been brilliant. And please, if anyone wants to look at this masterclass, please do, because I really do think especially what's happened with COVID, and it's become even more relevant within business, hasn't it? That it's got to be so important to be visually right. So thank you once again on behalf of the Chamber, and thank you all for coming. Thank you. So if there's anyone here that wants to find out any more information, you can obviously find that out through the Chamber. And Molly, have we got any more events coming up that you want to cover off before we say goodbye?
Yeah, sure, thank you. So we've got one big event coming up, which is the Future of the Workplace, or the Future of the Workforce conference. So this will be sort of drawing on insights from different experts within their field, from law, tax, management styles. Obviously, we've all changed how we work over the past year, and probably going to implement some kind of change to how we're going to work moving forwards. So this is really practical advice as to how we can do that and make sure that we're covered in all aspects, in all areas. That is on the 20th of July. And quickly, just one more, next Thursday on the 8th of July, we have business talks with Kaz Macklin. So Kaz is here with us today. She'll be hosting this event, and this will be lots of networking opportunities and a behind the scenes tour, video and interview with the Kent Wildlife Trust.
Brilliant, thank you, Molly. And yeah, once again, thank you for Paul as well. Paul Hayes has been behind the scenes, doing all the technical stuff. So yeah, once again, thank you, Paul. And yeah, see you all soon. Have a lovely day.